Yes, good evening once again. Moving on to my main charge, that is leveraging technology in education. Prior to that, here I would like to share with you my journey of about 40 years in the field of education. I have done my master's in physics from Sukharia University, Udaipur. I started my career as a physics teacher in K-12 schools, starting from Kamal Convent, Gorakhpur to Birla Vidyapit, Pilani. Around 17 years as educator, I realized students are the best teacher. They develop all your innate potential by putting you in all types of challenging situations. To satisfy my spiritual curiosity, I joined Krishna Consciousness program of ISKCON for about 3 years during my stay at Guwahati. In administrative capacity, I started as vice principal at Bal Vidya Mandir, Lucknow, then moved to Army Public School, Fatehgarh as principal, where I worked for over 15 years. Presently, I am associated with CP International School, Farkhabad, a branch of CP Group of Schools, which is working hard to put forth children of remote area to make them future global citizens. Coming back to our agenda of today, let's focus once again on education. What is expected from an educated person? He ought to be a critical thinker. This is something needed everywhere, from the workplace to avoiding purchasing every product advertised on infomercials. To be able to troubleshoot or strategize, the ability to logically attack a problem to come up with a viable solution is natural to some, but not all. In fact, it's a skill that is taught by a test taking, a popular subject these days. In the larger world, it helps children come up with ways to see solutions troubling the community. To be a good citizen, it is most relevant quality which we are expecting from an educated person. There are many levels to this. Learning the way our government works is imperative in making our government remain a democracy. It also is important to understand laws, public works, and civil disobedience, to understand how our actions influence the communities where we live. Its importance felt very much in the current scenario. In this pandemic, citizens all across the globe are handed the responsibilities for slowing the spread of virus, expected to meet these obligations by washing their hands, staying at home, not meeting with people, maintaining 2-meter distance when out in public, etc., etc. I would suggest that some good will have come from this crisis if we have taught our students that our community works together to take care of one another, about their responsibilities for the greater good, including people and public spaces, even they are still little. To notice the people who serve our community is important and diverse way, and to see and understand injustice, and that even in times of crisis, not everyone is afforded the same protections and resources. That kind of good out of this crisis, I think, will reverberate for decades as we ignite the civic engagement and social responsibilities values of an entire generation. To have enough interest to be able to have not only a job, but outside passions as well. The idea is to encourage children to develop hobbies and learn other outside skills as well. Finally, to be happy. The major goal of education must be to make the children happy. Students mastering the ability to calm down, to found their center, to delight in their accomplishments are goals teachers must try hard to impart. Being happy is a perfectly wonderful thing to be when you grow up. The untimely, I would like to quote here, the untimely demise of the young and very talented Bollywood actor on Sunday shocked the entire nation. He was a good scholar of his time. The actor had cleared several engineering entrance examinations and was also a National Olympiad winner in physics. This made us realize more than ever that we need a more holistic approach towards education. Failure is not a step backward. It's an excellent stepping stone to success because someone who survives failure has gained irreplaceable knowledge. Financial success does not guarantee happiness. This claim is not mere proverbial wisdom, but a fact verified by statistics. The poor, moving on to the, the current scenario, the poor quality of learning outcome has been a great cause of concern for the for the educational community of education, especially in the developing nations. In India, post-independence, various education commission, Radhakrishnan Commission, to Kothari Commission, to NCF 2005, all have submitted their recommendations to do away with Macaulay's system of rote learning, which can produce babus only. As per the data of the international level, the World Bank believes we are in the grips of a learning crisis where 60% of globally fail to achieve minimum standard of reading and arithmetic because of poor technological interruption. This failure to instill learning is costly, with UNESCO estimating that 10% of global spending on primary education is lost through poor quality delivery. On the other hand, UNESCO data also show that quality education can increase a country's gross domestic product GDP per capita by 23% over 40 years, which is very encouraging. Educational technology's concept is not new. The need of leveraging technology in education was felt from the early age of civilization. What started as an experiment by a bunch of researchers has now changed the landscape of education forever. Internet has only made the explosion of information even faster. Now we can blog or tweet about anything and have it spread like wildfire in mere seconds. Everything happens in real time. The internet is new consciousness in today's society. It's a living, breathing organism that drives evolution forward. Educational projects like the Wikipedia, the Wikiversity, as the driving force to make educational information freely available to all. E-books are now being made at a quarter of the cost of the traditional books. It is hoped in the future e-books won't even have to cost anything, since they have been scanned and downloaded there won't be a cost to the production of more e-books. From the old computers we used in science labs to iPads that we can now carry in our bags, the way we go about educating students sure has changed a lot. The continuous development of microchips that grow smaller and more powerful means that in the next few years to come, we will just in one touch of button, we can learn anything we want might come true instead of being the stuff of the science fiction. Coming to the next. While selecting, we are talking so much about the technology, but it is not sure that all we can use technology everywhere and we can use all kind of technologies in all types of concepts. There are many tools and techniques in education systems. We should critically examine their usefulness for a particular purpose. What is required is active engagement with the learning material. Technology is interactive and students learn by doing, researching and receiving feedback. This helps students become passionate about what they are learning. For example, they may study geography using interactive software such as Google Maps or Google Earth instead of looking at a picture. We think about our world when we were looking at the traditional maps and we were learning through that. Now the scenario has completely changed. Use of real world issues. This model encourages the use of real world problems in the classroom. By using the internet, students can research real issues happening at that moment that are related to the classroom curriculum. This helps students understand that the lesson being taught refers to real problems and real people. Another approach is simulation and modeling. Simulation software helps to bring to the classroom real activities that would be impossible to see without technology. By using specific simulation tools, students can see planetary movement, how a tornado develops, or how dinosaurs lived. Modeling software offers similar features. Instead of the static models, we used to have the static models in biolabs where we used to see what is inside the human body. These tools now allow students to see the dynamic characteristics of the models. Discussion and debate boards and forums, another advantage of technology. By using the internet or software tools, students can create online groups, web pages, and virtual communities that connect them in real time with students and teachers anywhere around the world. They can receive feedback from their teachers and share questions and concerns about their lessons. By listening to and reading about others' opinions and feedbacks, students refine their thinking. Reaching higher levels of comprehension and deeper understanding is yet another achievement in that. Online communities also present the opportunity for students to interact with others around the world. Yet another purpose can be for informing the working groups. Technology-focused education doesn't involve a class of students learning by themselves. Staring at a book, it indeed working groups foster group activities, discussions, and debates, and they encourage the establishment of democratic group dynamics. Another tool there is the formative assessment, which is very common nowadays and promoted by CBSE. Teachers ensure that students are learning not only the concept, but also how to use the technology and resources they have. Technology-focused activities mostly require critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Teachers work as facilitators, providing constant feedback, enabling students to achieve deeper levels of understanding. Coming to the current scenario, what we look at the teaching in the post-COVID scenario. COVID-19, as everywhere we are blocked and shocked with it. There is a complete shutdown, which has been challenging for every spectrum of society. In the stress of lockdown, hand washing, and tracking the global spread of virus, no one has paid heed to the sudden stress on that often neglected group are teachers. In these unprecedented times, our teachers have been fielding with multiple challenges for some time now. As part of their efforts to overcome the hurdles presented by the lockdown, from counseling students to keeping them engaged amidst the lockdown. Teachers indeed are the next level of COVID warriors, fighting for the nation and shaping the future of tomorrow. We got an opportunity to unlearn. Unlearning is the new learning. At first, taking online classes was challenging for many of our teachers. In spite of the availability of the content, its application, how to use it, and deliver it to the students in the right manner is the real deal. When one meets a student physically, a connection is established and it becomes possible to deal with or clarify any situation immediately. In online classes, we find it very difficult. But however, somewhere the connection gets lost, but our educators believe that over a period of time, a teacher has to build that connection with the content delivery and also the way they interact with the students. If the content is delivered in a proper manner, the student will not only be present, but also participate actively during the sessions. Our educators made the maximum efforts to keep their students engrossed with different tasks and had incorporated several apps such as Zoom, Google Meet, Skype, etc. to ensure interactive learning. I will not go in details because that is the area of my co-speaker. Not only the students interested, but these little fun ways of learning have kept them captivated and helped them concentrate during the online classes. Yet another way of keeping the children engaged are the natural surroundings which they have in and around. Let's look at some of the examples. Children can also learn from everyday household items. Mathematical concepts and numeracy surround children and are central to their world. We can, for example, we have the timing device around the home, analog and digital clocks, a stopwatch, watches, and the oven timer, measurement concepts such as weight, capacity of cooking ingredients, liquids, numbers around the house, and counting of the object. There are many ways the children can learn through the household items. Nature resources. Think about encouraging outdoor play and construction with materials which we used to do in our times, including water, rocks, and sticks, making artwork with nature. Many of our children are doing very good work using these natural resources. Commercial resources are also very important. Some children will have access to card games, board games, and technological games, and a range of sport and exercise resources such as trampolines, skipping ropes, balls, etc., etc. They can also learn through art resources. Consider making use of any household art or musical instrument, including improvised instruments such as buckets or drums and so on. We are seeing many innovative ideas which are coming out on the video clips every day on our Facebook and Google there. And they can also make homemade flow dolls. Digital resources are also of great help to the children in this pandemic, such as Google Home, collaborative online platforms, e-books, movies, tablet devices, phones, computers, watches, cameras, video games, etc. Talking about others, let's see how we are dealing in our school and how we are including the technology in our routine ways and working and in education. Ever since I started my career as an administrator, initially as principal of Army Public School Fatehgarh, and later as Deputy Director of CP International School Farkhabad, I started working earnestly for automation of the school system, be it school office, attendance, and leave, students' progress report, bell, security, updates about the school, fee and accounts, communication with students, their progress report, and progress of teaching and learning programs. It gave an insight that in near future, even if you are with the students in campus, it's going to be a very crucial tool that will help you handle the work efficiently in any unforeseen emergency. At CP International School, I found the school management very progressive in terms of introducing technology in the school system. All the teachers have their own WhatsApp group with their class students for intimating all the latest updates to the students. Likewise, all the coordinators share their points and discuss their issues separately through their own WhatsApp group. With ERP software, we have connected all the parents, teachers, and students through an ERP system. With ERP software, we have connected all the parents, teachers, and students through an app from where they can access real-time data and information related to payment gateway for fee, deposition, e-library, attendance and leave records, progress report, homework, labels, annual plan calendar, etc., etc. Our website is indeed an advanced information multiplier. With this much technology, we are connected with our stakeholders round the clock. But our actual worth in terms of our readiness with technology was tested when the lockdown started and students were confined to homes. We took this as a challenge, and here our keeping abreast with the system helped us a lot. We declared our annual results on time and shared mark sheets online. Through virtual meetings, we trained our teachers to use apps like Zoom, Google Meet, and Google Classrooms. A detailed planned timetable for online classes was also prepared and shared among the students and teachers. And I can proudly say that we were leaders not only in running online classes, but we conducted online tests also and even declared the results of these online tests. Our success story was shared even in media, and parents' feedback was that the quality of online teaching conducted by our school was so good that it has released all the tensions about their boards studies, and now they are not worried even if school remains closed for coming few months. My point is that it is our leverage of technology that has helped us withstand all the odds and survive even in the tough times. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought to light a stark reality that access to the technology that makes remote learning possible isn't a nice to have, but a necessity nowadays. To conclude, I would like to quote I would like to quote David Waldrick. We need technology in every classroom and in every student and teacher's hand because it is the pen and paper of our time and it is the lens through which we experience much of our work. I wish you all a safe future, and I want to say that We should not wait for schools to open. I appeal to all my educationists and educational community to be prepared and remain prepared, because we can stop teaching and learning of the children. Thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, and save lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjuji. That was a fantastic presentation. I at least enjoyed it very much. And we will have questions for you at the end when we are done with.
Yeah, there is a small video to be shared. I will just share it for the teaching methodology. Yeah.
These are some clippings of our Corona warrior teachers here. They have really done a wonderful job.
Teachers as Corona warriors, I think that was a very fantastic point you made. It's a world where many of the teachers have come online for probably the first time, and it's been a great learning experience for them as much as the students itself.
Thank you, Mahesh. I will hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So we apologize for that audio glitch on the video, but overall a great presentation. I would request now Chinky to share her screen and start her presentation. And again, my request is that please keep your questions coming through the chat function, and we are happy to have them addressed when Chinky is done with her presentation. And those who are raising hands, please, you can message me directly or through the chat function. We'd be happy to take your questions. Yes, Chinky, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Very good evening to each one of you present here. And I'm thankful for being on this platform and given this opportunity, Mr. Mahesh. Thank you for that. Like Mrs. Sanju said, technology has played a key role in COVID times. Each one of the teachers have become a warrior. So while I present who I am and my profile, I would like to start with a small poem that a few lines which I came across on Facebook one day, which is an adapted version of Dr. Seuss lines. For all the teachers out there, all the educators in this session and beyond, I will teach you in a room. I will teach you now on Zoom. I will teach you in a house. I will teach you with my mouse. I will teach you here or there. I will teach because I care. Yeah. So it's very important that teachers have adapted their ways, have changed, have learned so many new things to be able to deliver online classes. And for me, being an educator, this is a pride that technology is something that I have been very passionate about from the very beginning. I've been associated with Fountainhead School, Surat, which is an Ivy World school since the past 10 years. I worked in the P/P primary years, the diploma program, that is grade 11 and 12, and at present I'm the MYP coordinator for the school, so I'm in charge for grade 7 to 10, that is middle school. So now I want to give you an interactive experience, and this is something we also are using in our school, and probably you can adapt and use in your online classes. So I would request you all to go to open on your mobile phones or on the same device that you are using to attend this meeting. You could go to joinpd.com and join using TUGZH, the code on the top right corner of the screen. So that screen is something that I will be using on and off. I will be asking a few questions, few interactive slides where we will get to know each other and the type of tools and some responses. So I'll proceed. On that screen, for some questions you will get a text box where you can type. For some questions you may get a drawing box where you can draw and scribble and respond to the prompts on the slides. This is basically Peer Deck. It's an add-on for Google Slides, which can be used to make synchronous classes more interactive and to ensure participation from students. This is how the session flow will be. I've divided the session into 4 parts. First, I would like to get a hang of how distance learning is happening at all of your places, and what are some tips and tricks which should be conveyed to students and teachers when they are taking these distance learning classes. Second, I'll be taking you all through a case study of our school and how we've done it. In the course, you will also get to know many free tools that we are using, and probably you will be able to adopt them. Then I have a list of free tools that I'll be sharing with you all, so you can explore them and use them if you wish to. And at the end, we will have feedback and also a Q&A session. So to get an idea about what is the profile of the audience that we have in this session, could you all just go on the Peer Deck thing that you have already opened? On the bottom right corner, you'll see answer me, answer options. You have these 4 options. Please select the profile that matches you the most.
As Chinky is typing it, it's a way of, she's making us work. She's herself working and she's making us learn. So that's the interesting part of leveraging technology.
Yes, I think Richard has also posted the link. Thank you. Okay, so while others join, I will see how the profiles. I've got 23 responses already. So I have an option on my screen where I can readily show the responses also to all of you. So we have a school head from the people who've responded. We have 16 educators and 7 people who are technology enthusiasts. So nice to know the profile. So this will also help me understand that what's the need of the session and what all sharing can help, and you can have your some learnings and which you can adopt and use in your own life and your profession. Yes. Yeah, so I'm getting more responses. I can lively monitor the responses. So this is a way to get responses from students to ensure that everyone responds, that ensures that they've not just joined the Zoom or the Google Meet or the Skype class, but are also actually physically and mentally attending it. So this is one way of having random questions in between to get if students are attentive. Yeah, good. So okay, so since we are short on time, I'll quickly move ahead. And people, there will be many such questions coming throughout the session, so you can hang on and you can explore the tool then. Now, for any PD opportunity, the first thing we do when we reach the venue is to try to, okay, we'll meet 2-3 people at least, and I ask and find out, okay, where are you from? What's your name? What's your designation? What's your organization? Okay, why are you here for? Those things. So I thought let's do that too in this session in some way, so that we know the profile of people, we can get to know each other. Many of you already posted on the chat, but it's good to know each other better. So yeah. Okay. I have some familiar people. Maithili, hi. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we have students here. Surprising, yeah. Okay. Students, we have students here, so that's interesting to know. Okay. You have teachers, you heads of the school. Nice, nice. Good to know. Oh, I'm glad how many people have joined now. Yeah, good. So all parts of India and few from outside as well. So that's it. Okay. I see some people from IB schools as well. So you'll find some terminologies or something that I cover in school, which covered in the further session familiar. Others will not find it useful. I've tried to keep my session uh, as as much possible that people have many things to take away from the session and you can readily go and try out new things at your school. Yeah, that's great, great. So, okay, so I just go. There's an option here where I can lock the screen. Okay. Also, I can send a new prompt and I can immediately ask for a new question also if I find the need. So I have an option of locking the screen where there will be no more responses taken, but I won't do that because I do want your responses. Okay, thank you all so much for responding. Distance learning in COVID times. What are the challenges? What are things that have been good? You can type in anything here. One thing I will share for us, for me being a coordinator, what were the challenges? Basically, we started with the distance learning program right from the next day the first lockdown began. We had a contingency plan because we could foresee that lockdown could be imposed or some sort of regulations would be put in place. So we already had some things planned, but we could train only a limited people, like Ms. Anju said, before the actual lockdown started, and then lot of trainings happened virtually for teachers, and it was challenging. Earlier we started using Google Meet, and the Google Meet used to have very limited features. So I will just share some funny instances where initially teachers had limited rights and over the Google Meet function. So students, there would be some notorious students who would mute each other. They would kick the teacher out of the session if the teacher is being firm. So we had our roller coaster ride, but now since the features have improved and there are a couple of tools that teachers can use, there is a lot of understanding that students have now that this is the new normal and this is what they have to be okay about. They have to adapt to it, they have to adjust to it and also learn in it, since this is the new thing and this is going to last for a significant time now. Okay. Don't know whether all the students are attentive or not. Yes, this had been a challenge. Students may keep mic and camera off and leave their place. They would also use funny characters and avatars, learning new online tools. Yes, that's a challenge for each teacher. So rightly said, teachers, educators have been corona warriors. Challenges to opportunity. How to enhance good number of attendance of students? I will come to that point later on. So some strategy that we have used and probably you could adapt. New learning platform. Microsoft Teams, okay, shifting from one platform to another. Okay, teachers feel more confident because they've learned so many new skills. A big chat to stop them from sending stickers. Oh. Network connectivity, yes, network is an issue. I understand digital divide was also discussed in the earlier session. So that is a big thing and that is a big challenge for us as a country and also other places. It's not about us only. use of a single device. Obesity, yeah, could be a side effect. People are sleeping at a pace. Showing video online. Okay, I'll also address this point. What we decided. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so someone is using lot many new tools. Probably we could share each other with each other and learn. Okay, thank you so much for all of your responses. Now, some tips that I would want to give all of you. So first, for synchronous classes, that are all the classes that we have on Zoom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, whichever you are using, cameras on must be an essential agreement with the students. Unless they don't keep their cameras on, teachers or educators can have a different outcome for that. So probably will not mark attendance, or unless you have the camera on for the entire duration of the class, your attendance won't be marked, or you will not be allowed in the next class. Some sort of such consequences could be given. Mics should be kept off. So these all tools have an option where the teachers have the rights to keep switch off the mics for the students. Students should also be trained to use chat boxes effectively. So we've run essential agreements with students for entire slot, where teachers told them what is expected out of them when the online classes started. So they know that what and how they have to write on the chat box. They have to address the name of the person for whom the question is being written while responding also. Also, yeah, students will be posting the same message again and again, or using some avatars, or not using a proper profile pic, using absurd names should be removed from these synchronous sessions. And the key to ensuring all this happens and this doesn't create trouble for teachers is to enforce it. That's the only way out. So unless you let a child suffer for 2 or 3 sessions because of any of these actions, they will not realize the seriousness of the matter. Use flip learning more. So now this is important. When we come to digital divide, and also where there is no digital divide, or there are places where people have good internet connections, but there have been concerns raised regarding screen time. So it's very important that we have a fine balance between the task and the teaching that we do. So basically, our lesson plans have to be modified for the distance learning approach. We cannot teach the way we used to teach earlier in a physical classroom. So a lot of things should be somewhere where the onus is passed on to the student. So there's 50% teaching time, then there's 50% time where the student has to explore something, has to come up with an assignment, work on something on independently. So all the classes cannot be online, because that will strain the entire system, the stakeholders, students, parents, teachers, the administration. Also, the net connectivity is an issue. So wherever there are these asynchronous classes happening, where video recordings are being shared with students, then these asynchronous flip learning, giving them assignments and then giving feedback on assignments, that is something that can be used very effectively, and that is the way it should be done in the distance learning module. What do you look forward to in this session? So there's a lot been already talked about. So what all? So I've just written some pointers here, and this is a periodic slide. So I want you all to respond. What are you looking forward to in this session? So this will help me. I have several things on my presentation, but then it will help me focus on what's more important and what is that most of the audience wants to know about. So these options are something that I thought could be there. You could also write if you are looking forward to something else, and start seeing responses. Okay, I want to know more about teacher tools, systems the school needs to set up. Yeah, teacher tools, teaching techniques, teacher tools, safe platform for online classes. Yes, there have been concerns about different platforms. Asynchronous, synchronous balance. Yes. How to help avoid academic honesty. Very important. Yes. Yes. During assessment, this is a major concern. How can it be effective distance learning? Learning management systems that are available for free. Simulation, practical science, and social studies, some of them, what can be used. How to deal with special students, yes. How to control students' unwanted behavior. Evaluation test, how can they be taken? Practicals is a major concern. Okay. Someone has been all of them, so that's great. I will try to cover as much as possible. So I have like 10-15 minutes now. Evaluation test for primary students, how to prevent Tamnothana. What can be some attractive way to make students join online classes? Yes. Involvement of kindergarteners. Okay, so we have a range of people wanting a range of solutions. Let me see what I can cover. Okay, in Peer Deck, you will get to know who is typing in the teacher dashboard. So, yeah, so after the session, I'll get to know who is written. I can also see that if I use the teacher dashboard option, but which I didn't use right now because it would become more confusing for you. But you all can explore that or contact me in future. I'll give my email address if you want to understand about that in detail. Also want to know a better work. Lesson plan. Okay, so I will get your names as I mentioned earlier, and I'll try to answer if something is left unanswered during the session. I'll try to answer later on because we are short on time, so I will rush to what I need to cover. I'll try to cover most of the things that you all wanted to know. Okay, so case study about Fountainhead School, Surat. So we are an IB school. I joined the school as an ICT facilitator, and I've been there as an IT head. I've taught in the DP 11th, 12th ITTS. I've taught science. Then I've become the MYP coordinator. In all these years, I've been a key part of how technology has functioned at the school, how we've adopted different technology in teaching and learning, in systems, in the communication that we do with parents. So we've evolved a lot over the years. So I'll share a few things here, and to make it short, so basically when it comes to distance learning, there are two things that we need to understand. Logistics, teaching, assessment. Like most of the people, whatever questions you had were about these. Logistics, how to manage, which are the tools, how would it work, how would we communicate to parents, how would we convince parents, what if the students have limited devices. Second is how will the actual teaching happen. And third is how can we assess what the teachers are learning. Okay. So I will try to cover this through a simple thing. I will not take you across how we have been doing across these months starting from March onwards, but I will take you through a small case study. So basically we had to take one unit in grade 10. So I will show the model that we used for running that particular unit for a particular grade. This is a small micro model that will help you understand that how this model is adapted across the grades, across subjects, and this is how we are catering to distance learning at our school. So first, teaching model has to be very balanced, as I mentioned. There has to be a balance between synchronous and asynchronous time when it comes to distance learning or the online classes. So first, prior knowledge assessment through a pop quiz. Pop quiz is basically you give some references, some links that they can refer to, and then they have to respond to certain questions. So this gives an idea about what is already known things that students know, so that the teachers can discuss and address them better in the online session. So pop quiz. Then I'm not going to tools right now because that will be covered later. Second, the synchronous class could be through any synchronous mode of teaching, Google Meet, Zoom, invites, how are they sent through a Google Calendar or some other options. Third is during the class discussion of the prior knowledge assessment by going through the responses of students. Fourth is do some teaching that happens during the class where the teacher is required to explicitly explain the content. So you choose that content, and after that content you give an assignment that each student has to complete in a designated time. So for example, how the model used to look like for us was morning 1 hour class used to happen for all the students. Then previous day they were sent a pop quiz that they attempt. Then they have 1 hour class. In the afternoon they again have a 1 hour class, but that is not a class where they actually join a meet and do something, but it's a designated time when they are supposed to be working on an assignment that has been given in the previous class, and the pop quiz or the prior knowledge assessment for the next session. So in this, the onus was transferred to the student, and I will show how this helped us in ensuring attendance and regularity. So this is how a timetable looks like for a student at our school. This is the Google Calendar. Teachers send invites to students using Google Calendar, and the Google Meet. We use Google Meet. People may use other platforms, whatever they are comfortable with. I have been a Google school, and hence we use Google often, and our teachers, parents, students, everyone is quite comfortable with Google. The students join classes with the Google Meet link, which is visible in the calendar link only. So this invite only has the calendar link, Google Meet link, which they click and join. After the class, when the class goes on, the teacher makes sure that they record the session. After the class, the recording of the session is also available as a link in the Google Calendar of the student. So they can refer to the recording in case they lose connection due to any technical issue at their place, or due to any genuine reason. If they are not able to join the class, they can refer to the recording later on. So all the recordings are there for them to refer anytime they want to. Now pop quiz, as I mentioned, prior knowledge assessments can be done through Google Forms, which is a very simple and easy way to make questionnaires where you can have multiple choice questions, you can have short and long response time questions, image-based questions, quiz-based questions. You can use Go Formative. Go Formative is a free tool which I will also come to later on, which is a very, very nice tool for taking assessments in this distance learning format. If you want to do a survey, you can use SurveyMonkey. There is one Quizzes, which can also be used. Quizzes and Go Formative are free for educators during COVID times and otherwise also. There are lot of pre-made quizzes already available for across subject areas, across grades, higher studies, college level as well, which you can easily use as it is if you want, or you can edit and use, or you can make your own customized quizzes which you can send to your students to attempt. Okay, so again a peer deck slide. So I want answer about which is the synchronous learning mode tool that you are using, or you have experience of using at your educational institute. It is Google Meet, Zoom, Skype, Microsoft Teams, whatever. So you can respond in text. Okay, so we have 4: Zoom, Google Meet, others. Okay, this cannot be a very good idea because we have only 69 people who joined that. So probably I might not get an overall idea, but still good enough. Okay. So people who are using Google Meet, if you have attendance related queries, you can write to me later on. I can tell you we are using some extensions and tools which helps to get automated attendance and teachers don't have to record them manually. That also ensures that students attend the Google Meet. During the classes, a very clear division of time of the synchronous class is important. So what is going to be covered in how much time? If that expectation clarity is between the teacher and the student, that helps the student also understand that, okay, what's the agenda of the class rather than waiting for something that is unknown. So that helps clarity of that. So this is something that we use as a normal practice. Now the discussion, as I mentioned in the model that we use, there's a discussion about the quiz. So how the students responded during the quiz, going through the actual responses. How to ensure interaction during the synchronous classes. One way is using Peer Deck that we've used. Peer Deck has a lot many options like these slides which are templates. So there is a ready-made library of such slides which can be used, which you can edit and put your questions, thoughts, images and ask questions. So this is one where a thought is mentioned and students have to write their opinion about this. So you can't write here, but this is from one of our teachers' presentations. Some image of prompts could also be used in the lesson plan during the session. So this is one of those where students can be asked, what do you see in the picture? What do you think it could be about? And this triggers their thinking, this triggers their active participation. They look forward to such sessions where there is something that they can contribute to, they can voice their opinion. Because if there is only one way talking happening, then there's a lot more chance that students get inattentive and are not interested in the session. Tracking happens throughout the unit. So how is attendance maintained? Plus every quiz that the students give, teachers check and give a feedback. So every quiz that students appear, we get a yes or no on the pop quiz. Session 1 where they present, session 2 where they present. So across the entire unit, this monitoring is being done. This helps that in monitoring, if a particular student is irregular in submitting assignments, then we make calls to those students and inquire with them that what's the issue. We try to help them out, or we try to talk to the parents so that they understand the seriousness of the matter and what is the learning loss that they are going through because of not attending the classes, or not many students do attend class but don't attend the assignment. So in that case, they lose out on the next class also. So that is something that we inform with the data to the parents. Then they are more than convinced and happy that we are following up for their child so much. Post-class mandatory assignments are given through Google Docs. Some may use Word docs or other platforms, Outlook or Microsoft something could also be used. It's up to you, whichever platform you like. So we use Google Docs. And it's important that for any assignments we give, there's a tracking system. So someone also mentioned about learning management system. So there are different variety of learning management systems. We use Google Classroom as the learning management system that helps us announce and share resources with students. Plus, it also helps in tracking. So if you can see on the screen, you submitted the assignment. 20 were the students whom it was assigned to. Out of 20, 18 have submitted. So these kind of platforms help. And Google Classroom, we also have an app for mobile. Students can also write in a notebook, scan the pictures, take a picture with a camera, and submit on a Google Classroom mobile app. So it is something where the device is not going to play a large role whether the students have a laptop or a Chromebook or a MacBook or not. They can even use their mobile phones and mobile apps to submit such assignments in an asynchronous setting. Other such learning management systems are Moodle that I am aware of, and there might be others as well. Also, Google Classroom, if as a school you are not a Google school, but as a teacher you find that Google could be used, Google Classroom is something that you would like to use, because Moodle is something that as a school has to be adopted and individual cannot use Moodle. So Google Classroom, as a teacher, if you have a Gmail account, you can also create your own class and add students and start using it. So these are the type of questions that we use to give to students so that it helps them to explore different digital tools. So here's one is PictoChart, which can be used to assign to students to make an infographic where they have access to digital tools. These tools really make them more prone to come to classes. They are interested in exploring such new things, so that helps. Search, Visme, Engage, Canva, these are all three different tools which can be used to make interactive graphs and posters as well. So we give such questions, such an assignments where they don't have to just write written responses, but have to come up with creative products which reflect their understanding. That helps them be engaged and interested in the session. End of unit assessments or the term exams. So like Sanju also mentioned, like her, we also conducted the term exams during the lockdown as well. We continued with the same system. We used Go Formative to conduct these online exams. Go Formative allows educators to create as many quizzes as they want. You can monitor when the students are actually taking the exam. You can track the completion status of the students. I'll just show that screen. Yeah. So this is how every student's name appears. I can see that X student. So for example, Ahan has completed all the questions, but one student is still yet to complete. The green tick indicates whether the child has submitted the quiz or not. And teachers can also check from the Go Formative itself the responses for each student, either question-wise or student-wise. So this is how the back end of the Go Formative looks like. And it's a really nice tool. We have been using it since 4 years now. It's not something that we've explored during lockdown. Many of our summative assessments during actual school also happen on Go Formative. But it's something that I really would recommend you all to explore. During exams, this is the page that we had sent to all students on their mail. So during exam, like in an actual exam scenario, we have invigilators and helpers who would help students if they have doubts. But in a virtual environment, we couldn't give that opportunity. So we had created this page, and every 2 sections had a Padlet link. It's an interactive whiteboard sort of thing. So students, if they have questions, they had to keep their Padlet link open while during the exam and had to post their queries on Padlet, and there were people who were in charge to respond to those queries on the Padlet. So that is how we were helping them with the technical issues during the exam. Now when it comes to monitoring academic honesty, how to monitor whether they are giving authentic thing or not, of course we did a lot of awareness, and we tried to tell them about the values that they need to focus on. And some cases, some schools also adopt a way where they ask them to join a meet and the camera on while they are attempting. We took parents into confidence, and we insisted that parents are the invigilators during the exams and they help and ensure that students don't cheat. So that's how we did it, and we had set some essential agreements, and there was a lot of trust that we had to have on our students in this scenario. So this is the Padlet thing, that how it looked like. So teachers would post students' queries and I would respond at this is this, or you have this is how you can solve the issue, or your response has been recorded or not. So again, periodic time, how do you feel? We are towards the end of the session, so I would like to get a quick idea about what's the feeling. So you have to drag that dot to what best that you think is a flow. Okay, this is a quick screen of all the free tools that we have been using. So you can write to me and you can take a picture if you want, or if you want to explore these. So I've also categorized these tools for your quick reference. So these are the tools that you can explore and use. Also, there are a couple of subject-specific simulations and activities that I could list, and I have put into a table here. So probably you can ask the host for the session to share in some way if you wish to see this. So feedback and reflection time. So I just want to post this link. So if you all can click on the Padlet from here and post it, that will help me. So you can click on this link from the peer deck and give some feedback if you want. I would be glad.
Thank you, Chinky. I think it was a great presentation. So that would be my feedback.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mahesh.
So are we ready for some questions?
So would you like me to stop the presentation?
Yeah, you could. That slide could be on for some time. So we will have questions, and I have the first question. Okay, from Mr. Dixon, and the question is, what would be the ideal group size or the student size for interactive participation? I'll ask both of you. First, Anjuji, you can answer in your opinion, what should be the ideal class size for student interaction? And then Chinky, you could answer.
Sure, thank you.
Anjuji, you have muted yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. So what I feel, because we have worked in different kind of sets of right from 11 to 50 children in a class. But what I feel, it's all about the content which you are delivering in a school that can keep the children attracted towards, attentive towards the class. If your content is good and you are able to deliver it properly, then size doesn't matter.
Chinky, what would be your answer?
Yeah, so regarding this, we had started earlier because teachers were not trained. So we had some of our master teachers who would quickly adapt and learn. So we used to run the classes in huge cohorts. So that would be around 160 students and 2 teachers taking the class together on a Google Meet. But eventually we faced some issues where learning needs of each student would not be able to be met in such a big cohort. So in the new academic session that we started from 25th May, we have a class size of 20 and 1 teacher, and I would think this is going really great because each individual student the teacher is able to cater to. But it all depends on the school type and the cohort you have and what is the possibility.
Okay. So Anjuji, my next question for you is specifically to you, because you are in an area where you could say you are semi-urban or rural mostly, is some families have only one smart device. So how do children cope up with one device and you have multiple children attending school or classes?
Yes, I was very much expecting this question from one of you. And we have shared a real picture of the children of our school. A brother and sister sharing the mobile phone on one table. But to be sensitive on this issue, we have designed a timetable. And the teachers were taking class, they have taken care of that. The timings are different. Like for primary children, because there obviously will be a difference in the age group of children of the same parent. So we have designed it so that for the pre-primary or primary children or the secondary and senior secondary children, there should be a difference in the time so that even if there is one set of Android phone at home, there shouldn't be any problem in learning. It all depends how sensitive the school administration is about the need of the children.
Okay, thank you very much. Chinky, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Okay. How many of your technology, how much of your technology which you use for teaching and learning is open source as a percentage or commercial off the shelf?
100%.
Wonderful. So it's all 100% open source, free to use tools.
Exactly. Also, the tools that I had in that chart,
Yes.
everything that I put together is 100% open source. Of course, some of the simulation and websites for subject specific which I've added are free now. So that's the best thing. Because of the COVID times, many people have been very generous. People have put out their resources for educators for free for this COVID time. So we are making the best use of that opportunity. So as of now, whatever I've put up, as far as the subject specific resources, is also free.
Okay, wonderful. Anjuji, I have a question for you. As
Yes.
now many states are coming up with directives that children up to class 5 should not have online classes. What is your take on that? Should online learning happen for young kids or early years?
To my surprise, when online classes started, and most of the pics I have shared were of the smaller children. Their parents were, I feel they were more relaxed when the online classes were going on. But of course, they don't want it to for a longer time. But all the parents, especially for the younger ones, want classes so that they remain engaged at home. And parents also get some time to spend somewhere.
Wonderful. So one of our schools, what I've seen is 3 or 4 teachers joining an online class, and the teacher taught ratio is very nice even for online classes, and a few of them are facilitating for one group of children. I've been through that and I enjoyed it very much, and it was very seamless, as if they practiced very well. Okay, just sharing my opinion looking at some of the online classes which have happened.
You expect an answer from me?
No, that was just a statement, Anjuji.
Okay.
Okay, and Pinky, what do you see? Okay, is online learning here to stay as far as your school is concerned?
Yes, it's here to stay because many of the things that we've experienced during these times are something that we plan to take it further. Also, once the regular school starts. So one surely that our parents have responded that the online parent-teacher meetings have been very effective. And the attendance or participation from parents have been enormous, has been really good as compared to actually them coming to school. That is one thing. And also for skill-based classes, some of the online seminars on weekends, those things are something that we will definitely try to run later on also.
Okay, great answer. Anjuji, I have a question for you. Okay, do you see resistance from teachers in your school to jump onto the online learning bandwagon or online teaching bandwagon?
No, there is no option to it. They are all technology friendly, and they were already using technology, so there is no but to adopt it, and they are gradually, and we are training the teachers during summers also. So they are all prepared to conduct the online classes, and they are all very well conversant with and we are dealing with a young team. So they are more enthusiastic about online classes. Equally, we are finding the equal response from the students and teachers. Both are ready for online classes.
Wonderful. So I have a question. So as you know, I'm aware of some schools in the NCR region and other places where new sessions have begun using online classes. So a question which is very important is, how do we deal online with children who do not know us well? When their first learning experience itself is online in a new school or with a new class teacher, how do both teachers and the children cope up? I will first start with Chinky and then I will move on to the answer. I'll have both of you answer this. Chinky, your opinion first.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is a major challenge, and we have many of the teachers who are also newly hired. So it becomes all the more challenging. So to make it as smooth as possible, what we did is, before the actual online classes started, there were these online meet and greet sessions with each student by the teacher. So not all teachers would be able to do it, but at least the class teachers. So they would send invites or calls or hangout meets. Some way they would try to contact these students and have a word with them so that they get to know the students. And after that, the online classes began. So we had this time before the last and the new session. So we used that time for having these meet and greet sessions. Also, we are having regular well-being checks with students to ensure that the lockdown is not having any adverse effect.
Okay. Anjuji?
Yes, we were also expecting a similar kind of crisis, that when the children do not know the class teachers, how well they will blend with the new teachers teaching. So initially what I designed that we have promoted the same teacher, mostly the junior class teachers continue with the same class. So there was not much of that crisis. But we have hired some new teachers also. So we have conducted Zoom meetings frequently among the class children and the class teachers to get to know at each other. We have all, but we faced a problem when we have new physics, and I would like to share physics and chemistry teachers were new in our school. So I had to interrupt in between. I have joined those classes, and I was a bridge between the children and the teacher. And now they are very comfortable, and we are running classes during summers also for them.
Okay, wonderful. I have the final set of questions coming up. So Anjuji, this is a repeat of the earlier question, but I think the participants still want to hear from you. How are children from rural areas coping up with online learning?
Yes, it's very difficult for them because initially they didn't have the Android phone. So parents were giving the audio calls to me, कि ma'am, you have started it with the online classes and we don't have. We are catering for the children of army personnel also who are posted obviously on the border areas. So I'm being associated with them for a long time. I have soft corner for them. So once the lockdown was open, or even when at the time of when the lockdown was open in the morning, teachers used to visit the children and they used to give them some work. We'll connect them with on audios also, and there are frequent visits of teachers now to the children's home, and we have collected their copies also. We are giving them work, and now we have. Mentally prepared them to have Android phones at their home. Because
Okay.
connectivity there earlier during the lockdown time, they couldn't buy the mobile phone. Now they all are having the cells. So I don't think there will be any problem anymore there.
Okay. As I move to the last question, I would request all participants to attend our next upcoming webinar on 20th of June about children's academic performance and how do you read that, how do you improve your child's academic performance. That is on 20th June, again hosted by People Bridge. And my question to you, Chinky, is as schools resume and children come to school and teachers attend school in a post-COVID world, would you sanitize your devices? Number one. Number two, quickly in 30 seconds, tell us again some of the tools because some people have missed it and they would like to hear from you, the open source tools. Thank you again.
Yeah. Okay. So first thing, sanitizing things. Yeah, of course. So everything has to be sanitized. So of course, device will not be spared from that. And device is something that people tend to share also at times. So that is something that will be a must protocol. We already had systems for those things. Come to free tools. There are a lot of tools. I'll just quickly say some tools like Actively Learn is one new nice tool which can be used by language teachers, humanities teachers, someone who's talking about psychology. Actively Learn you can explore. PBS is there, then Sandbox is there. I can't recall. Flipgrid. Flipgrid is very good tool if you want to use for an unsynchronous class. So where you don't have an option of taking online classes, but you send recordings and then you want students to respond to your recordings by doing some assignment or giving a performance. They can shoot small videos and upload on Flipgrid. That's very good for any drama, performance related or skill based subjects. Flipgrid can work well. What else? Yeah, so yeah, and so my email address I had already posted. Those who written down, I will. Those who send me a mail, I'll be glad to share the details.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope all of you enjoyed today's session. Thank you, Anju. Thank you, Chinky. Thank you, Amitabh and the PeopleBridge team. I enjoyed this session. I hope you did as well. And again, repeating it, do attend our next online session, which is on 20th June at 5 p.m. From our speaker would be Ms. Dipinder Sekon, Director, Turning Point Center and a child psychologist. And that is something I'm looking forward to as well. And please stay safe. And we look forward to your continued participation. All of you enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anju. Yeah.